against Maminyar. Guys, and yeah, we are left with only one game, where quite a tough position for black. So just quickly, let's see a few last moves. Somewhere around this point, I think we left it. The march of the h pawn seems to be very logical. So threatening h6 to undermine the whole chain of g7, f6, e5. So black was practically forced to play h6, and then bishop a2. A sneaky move, preparing to play b4 to control the c5 square. Black went for c5, and then some after ef4 to take with the pawn to sacrifice the e pawn. And even though the situation is completely different, it does look somewhat similar to what Magnus did against Anish Giri, sacrificing the central pawn in sort of unexpected way. Rook takes. Bishop b1, rook e7, and then white doubles the rooks on the e-file. Threatening bishop c5, by the way. And not yet, because rook e2 comes with a check. Anyway, Grishchuk decided to go f5 here. Bishop takes, knight f6, king f3. It turns out that the pawn cannot be taken, because bishop c5. So knight d5 was played, and Magnus went with rook d2. 3 minutes left for Alexander Grishchuk. To remind you, well, it's a last day, but maybe some new viewers, we are getting the no increment till move 60. So those 3 minutes, or somewhat less than 3 minutes, which are left for Alexander Grishchuk, are final till move 40. So he needs to make a position is fine, but here it does seem that he is in a serious trouble. Well, the alternative to last move, which was discussed between the Grandmaster, was the move bishop f2, but rook e2 also seems to be very unpleasant, right? Black has difficulties unpinning, he cannot take. Yeah, okay. This seems to be like not a bad idea at first, right? So we are taking 2 minor pieces for the rook, but after rook a6, not only the a pawn turns into a very dangerous passed pawn, but the bishop on a7 is lost. So this tactic doesn't really work for black, and otherwise the pin on d-file is very unpleasant. Unpleasant to such a degree that Grishchuk has spent more than half of his time thinking here. So far he fails to find the move. Yeah, white's strat is perhaps just a positional bishop. Yeah, I mean, many threats in fact, like b3 followed by c4 can be considered a threat. Even bishop f2, swapping a pair of rooks but remaining with the pin on d-file is unpleasant as well. But the worst of it, seems black doesn't have a move to play. Not clear what black is supposed to do. It's like possibly moving the rook back so that rook d8 becomes an option. And in this case, bishop f2 is pretty annoying. So that in case of rook d8, white has... I don't know, it's not that simple. I thought bishop h4 But then black is in time to play knight f6. And even in this position, rook takes, bishop g6 with capture on f6 and rook e8 to follow. Once again, it's one nightmare of a position. Not to mention that there is rook e6. Once again, this might prove to be simply winning for white. Bishop c8, bishop a6. But normally you would prefer to keep the rooks. To go bishop g6, then take on f6, rook e8. Really, really terrible position. Yeah, it's like black will have to go back to d8, after which rook e6 looks winning. No move from Grishchuk. Still, rook d8 was played, which doesn't solve the issue of being on d file. Doesn't he lose immediately after bishop e4? That's the question. It's like rook d7, rook to d1, where only move seems to be knight f6, and then I'm curious to see what happens if white simply trades everything on d7, goes bishop b7. This should be it. Yeah, Magnus not in rush, of course, to fourth betters. If he finds a better move, I'm sure he's going to play it. Well, the candidate for a better move is bishop f2, for instance. But then black is in time to regroup with king e7, check, and knight to f6. And, well, at least for the time being, black is holding. Bishop e4 is on the board. Bishop e4, the only move was rook to d7, was played immediately. I assume rook d1 will be played. Well, I don't really see any other move but knight f6. And then, as I said, white is free to trade everything and just go bishop b7. Let's wait for Magnus's move. It's like he's not in a hurry. I mean, a move like bishop f2 looks nice as well. Yeah, it's like the feeling is that the only thing you don't want to do is like passing, yeah? Okay, so a few more moves, alright? It's rook e to d7, rook e to d1, knight f6, takes on d7, knight takes on d7. Kind of a desperate try to keep more pieces on the board for potential counterplay, but after rook d6, I don't really see what counterplay we are talking about. It's like a6 pawn is lost, and I believe the game is lost. What can I say? Really, really impressive result by Magnus Carlsen. So, when I arrived here in Shamkir to commentate on last 3 rounds, he was in the lead, and he was sharing the first place with Karyakin. Already a good result of +2, and he finished it off with 3 out of 3. Well, this is not yet official, the game is still in progress, but I absolutely see no chance for Alexander Grishchuk to come back to this one. I know, and now it is official, so Grishchuk resigns after rook d6, and as I said, absolutely impressive performance, which reminds us of great times of Garry Kasparov, I would say, when he was winning the tournaments by a huge margin. So, for those of you who are wondering if Magnus Carlsen still has the motivation to play chess, that's the answer. The +5, an absolutely remarkable result. I believe we will have the final press conference in a bit. Well, nothing new. Magnus Carlsen has won a tournament. That's an information we got yesterday after he crushed Karyakin. But once again, a true champion winning the game, which, well, for many of us would seem not necessary. Thanks for joining. Thanks for following the tournament. It was really a nice event, and I hope to entertain you guys again in future.